Buonasera, good evening everybody, and welcome to our session tonight. A new generation of media, and we were joking before that we're kind of a bit like a self-help group, because when we meet we kind of tend to talk about our problems and issues, and we find out that we have a lot in common also on that side. So we are looking forward to sharing these maybe also intimate thoughts with you tonight. I'll briefly introduce who is here, and then I will take a bit more a passive role in facilitating this, because I also want to take input from the audience of what is really of interest to you here. But let me briefly introduce our panelists in order of age of the platforms that are here. So the youngest platform that we have here is Reporter from Luxembourg. We have Christoph Bumb here. On my left, he's a journalist and a co-founder of Reporter, and he's also the managing director. Reporter is based in Luxembourg, is an online platform like all the others also here. And it started in 2017 with a crowdfunding and started publishing in 2018, and they're just out of their first renewal cycle of the subscriptions. Then we have Republik here, the second in age, which is based in Zurich in Switzerland. It's a German-speaking online magazine. It was started by a lot of different people. I'm one of the co-founders. In 2017 with the crowdfunding, we started publishing in 2018 as well. And we're still here also. Then we have the Correspondent, Maaike Goslinga, who is the managing editor. The Correspondent is based in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, was founded in 2013 with a crowdfunding as well, record-breaking crowdfunding, and is publishing in Dutch. And then we have Zetland, which is the oldest magazine around here, but it has an interesting story. It was founded in 2012 as a long-form article club, sort of, and was in 2016 reformed itself and turned into an online platform, much like the others here also. And is specializing also in live events and audio. But we'll get a bit to our specializations in a second. Did I say all the names? Lea, Maaike, Christoph, Richard. Before we start the discussion, I would like to briefly ask you here what kind of things you are most interested in, so we can get kind of the temperature and the fields, areas of interest, what you would like to hear from us.
There's a mic. Remember, it's group therapy, so everyone can share.
Well, if there's no input, we can also start a bit talking about where we are at the moment and what, because as we have noticed, we have been going through a lot of different phases in founding a startup and going through growth and sorrow in that process. So maybe I'll ask into the round, where are you at the moment? Should we start with Maaike?
Hello, we are 5 years old actually, but it feels like we're like counting in dog years, like 7 times older than you actually are. Because we actually decided to expand to the English language. So we're setting up an English language version of the Correspondent. The newsrooms will actually be integrated, so it's going to be one newsroom. Yeah, so that's where we are. So we did a crowdfunding in the English language world as well. We have we got the support of nearly 50,000 members from 130 countries. So on top of already 62,000 Dutch members. So that's where we are now.
And what will keep you busy until at least September and beyond? September 30th, right, is the launch date?
Well, I think the main job now is we have to look for a managing editor and new correspondents and new supporting staff. Yeah, and integrate them into our team. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so before diving into the specifics about where Zetland is now, it may be interesting to consider what do we have in common, and I think what we have in common is, in particularly, what we're not. So I think all of us represent journalism that doesn't talk with a voice from nowhere. I think that's one key feature. Also, I don't know if you will agree with this, but I consider every one of our media as part of a battle against cynicism. Against a form of journalism that are basically cynic, and I like that. I like being part of that war. And also, I think what we have in common is that that we consider journalism not as an end in itself, but as a means to an end, and that end is a conversation. And an engagement with our members and maybe also the public. Anyways, that was just some thoughts about what we share. And then Zetland right now, I think two things. 2 years ago we did some experiments with reading every article aloud. It was in fact our members who asked us, we like the stuff that you do, but could you please start reading it and into audio versions so that you can listen to every story instead of reading every story. So, and we thought that was a good idea. So we did some experiments and it really just took off. Oh, sorry, it really just took off, and we built an app that makes a seamless transition from audio to text. And now 65% of our usage is audio. So that has really been key for us. And also we just recently sold a license to our platform. So we slowly, I think, hopefully, maybe merging into also being a tech company. Selling not only journalism, but selling the technology that can distribute the journalism. Yeah.
I found the transformation super interesting also, like you basically are turning into a radio and technology, like, you know, and these turning points are super fascinating, I find. Mm-hmm. So maybe where are you at, Christoph?
Yes, as you said, we are the newest platform, the newest outlets present here, and we were lucky enough actually to be able to learn from all the other platforms, the history of the other outlets that are quite similar in the concepts. I totally agree. But then what we learned actually quite quickly is that our project couldn't be just a copy of any one of the other models, but had to be a specific answer to a specific need that was, or a specific deficit in journalism in our country. And in our case, this was more, I would say, than in other countries. The issue of political independence of the press. The press in Luxembourg is still very much, there are strong links between the media and political parties. So that was one main deficit that we addressed, and that was our main message in our campaign, our crowdfunding campaign. But there's also the other point that maybe is underestimated, because we just talked about that you said that you are all from smaller or little countries. But actually Luxembourg, as you might know, is by far the smallest country present here. It's just about 600,000 inhabitants. So this was from the start for us a problem, a challenge that we needed to address. And now, as you said, after 1 year, we see that our plan is working, and that you, even in a small country like Luxembourg, you can mount and you can develop the same kind of independent journalistic platform as Zetland, as the Correspondent and the Republik had done before.
So maybe we could take a moment to look a bit about at commonalities that we have and that we share and things that we find important. So, but maybe also I will share a bit about our troubles and issues at the moment. So we are currently in our second year of operation, of publishing. So we just passed a moment that made us very nervous, which was the first renewal of our subscriptions. So we had reached close to 25,000 subscribers just before the big first renewal moment came and hit us. And we had a 60% renewal rate of the early supporters, which got us to about 18,000 members now. And we're growing again from that. And for us, basically the last year was a year of growth, of soul searching in many ways also, because we grew so fast that it took us a lot of energy to actually set up the whole working team, basically, and to find also our own rhythm. And we completely underestimated that. And I think that's maybe also some aspects that we share, that we underestimated certain aspects of running a business, but also it's kind of part of transitioning from the world of journalism into the world of economy, which you have to kind of marry if you want to do a membership-funded news platform. But yeah, so we at Republik we passed that hurdle. We were quite nervous before that because. Basically, it's the only source of revenue that we have is the members. If members are not happy, they will go away. And we were actually quite surprised to end up basically at the same renewal rate as our friends in other markets in the first year. And so now we are kind of finally ready, I think, to focus a bit more on developing good stories than on building a company. How do you deal with this stress of both running a magazine and a business?
Yeah, that's that. I think that's the kind of the $1 million question, because I think what I learned from co-founding Zetland was that you start out, or at least I did, started out with a love for the kind of journalism that we're here for, the long form in-depth quality journalism made in cooperation with the members, and then you end up being someone who has to think maybe, I don't know, 15% about the journalism and 85. I'm really bad at numbers. So see, this is my problem, right? Because I'm not really born into a spreadsheet. It's just not my modus operandi. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have anything interesting to say about this, except that that's hard. Becoming a business person as well. It's super interesting because as I also learned, you have to earn money in order to pay for your mission. Your mission is worth nothing without someone wanting to pay for it. Yeah.
I have luckily never been involved in the business side of things because as a managing editor I normally do daily operations, but it is a shared responsibility membership of all staff in the newsroom. And I think what we did learn, especially in year 3, year 4, is that you can't do everything you want, and it led to a lot of people being overworked because they basically wanted to do too many things at once. I don't know if this same happened in your organizations. I hope it didn't happen in your organization, Christoph. But this is really something we had to learn. And we actually also really learned that structure is good. The people who worked at our organization were quite allergic to structure and organization and planning. But we also realized that you need structure in order to have some kind of freedom also as a correspondent, some room to run. So that's what we learned, the business side of things.
Yeah, I would totally agree also with what Lea said. Actually, it's kind of a paradox, because the reason that we launched Reporter, that we launched this project, was actually that we weren't that satisfied of how journalism worked in our country or generally, and that we didn't have enough time to do what we actually wanted, to treat or to report on stories that really mattered. And then when we launched our project, for myself as the managing director, I very much knew from the start that now I will have less time to actually do my job as a journalist. But after some months, the experience was actually that it was still worth it, because even if you say we make mistakes, we have to learn from mistakes quite quickly in a small company. But the good thing about a small structure, is you can always adapt quite quickly. So you can learn out of your mistakes, and you can change things very, very rapidly. And also, I would say you might agree as well, that if you have really a motivated, idealistic team, in a sense, that helps you with this whole journey, that makes a difference as well. So, yeah.
Can I ask something? When we launched Zetland, we thought that we would be up and running we would sort of know what a Zetland story is and how to go about it and how to edit it and how the whole process of making journalism, that would be up and running in 3 weeks. And I think now, 3 years in, we're kind of there. We're almost there. and maybe that's the biggest lesson. Just things takes a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's maybe one mistake I can share that we couldn't correct or couldn't adapt to. That is the time, as you said, also between the crowdfunding campaign, between the success in the crowdfunding campaign and launching your platform. We took about 3 or 3.5 months, because we thought that Republik took even more. I think nearly 7 months. I think. To prepare. Yeah, between the crowdfunding campaign and the.
Yeah, approximately.
Mm-hmm. We thought, because we are smaller, because we don't have the same structure, we thought, okay, 3.5 months should be okay, and then we quickly realized that it's not about the size of the team or the structure, but there are so many things to prepare, so many conceptual things to be sure about, as you said. So this was one mistake. I can guarantee that we would have done it very differently if we could redo it. But as I said, even then you can adapt to things, but I very much understand that keeping up to your aspirations that you had in your campaign, this will take a long time. We are now 1 year old. I understand what you said, that you just step by step understand how you can actually achieve your goals just journalistically.
What do you think? Should we get the temperature of the room again and see if there are any questions so far, or would you like to direct us in a certain way? Yes?
I would like to know how small or how big is your company, to the 4 of you.
So we are, the people working at Zetland, we're 25 people working at Zetland. Half of them, someone said, no? Tao is from Zetland as well. No, me and numbers. Anyway, I think we're 25 people working at Zetland. 10,000 paying members. Yeah.
The Correspondent has 62,000 members and a staff of 50, and we're hiring another 15 now.
Republik, we have a staff of around 50 people, but not all full-time. Full-time, it's somewhere between 30 something. And at the moment, 18,000 paying members, hoping to grow again. Our business plan says that we need around 25,000 on the long term.
Mm-hmm. As I said, we are by far the smallest. We have a team of 6 full-time staff and a total of more or less 2,000 subscribers at the moment. But you have to put it in some kind of relation, because Zetland, in a country of like Denmark, 6 million, 8 for Switzerland about, and 16, 17, right? For Netherlands, we have 600,000, and there's more to that as well. There is the language issue in Luxembourg. Just about half of the population of the 600,000 is actually Luxembourgers and tends to read in German. The other half is mostly reading and speaking French, or even just English or other languages. So this was something we had to adapt to, and the potential of our readers is even smaller than that. But one experience is in the media market like Luxembourg, even with a small team as ours, you can still make a difference. If some of you maybe would check our website or our history until now, we had some stories that resonated in Luxembourg. We were quite quickly established in the Luxembourgish media landscape. So this could be also a message. You don't have to be as big or as influential or as other media players here, but you can still make a difference in your own concept. So just to make this clear, like Republik with 50 people, this would be the second largest newsroom in Luxembourg, actually. So just to make the proportions clear. Yeah.
Yes, you have a mic.
I have a question. I don't know about the youngest project, but the other three, I know they put a lot of effort and resources into technology. Does any one of you regret that? And if no, why is it such a key thing for you?
Well, I can start out. We definitely don't regret it, since we just sold the platform. So that was a clever investment. Also because I think, if you think about it, media companies before in time were the drivers of innovation when it came to technology. So all of like a large portion of the great achievements in developing the printing technology came from media. And suddenly, when the internet came, we just stopped consider media as tech companies, and that was really a huge mistake, because then we gave that. Then we gave the field away to Google, to Amazon, to Facebook, etc. And I think we really have to reclaim the notion that a media company is also a tech company, because tech is distribution, and tech is also part of the product. You can't take journalism out of distribution. You can't take journalism out of product. So I really think it's central. It's so key to own that process. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for us it helps that part of our staff are actually developers. So whenever we want to build a feature for members, we have developers that we can talk to, and they can build it into our existing structures. And those are things that can't happen within ordinary CMSs that we don't control or have access to. So for us, it's definitely a feature. It's just as important how the website looks and feels to members as what is written on it.
Also, can I just super quick share one more thought? Especially when you want, or when you have young readers as some of you are, well, you're just used to Netflix, to Spotify, to like these seamless, extraordinary digital product, and journalism has to be in that field as well. Otherwise, we will become irrelevant for that specific reason.
I would very much like to second that. For us, the technology side is a very integral part of the company, not just as an add-on and the service to the rest of the company, but we really try to put our IT team, which is considerably large, or a large part of our team, into the center also when it comes to editorial decisions, for example, which is not always easy, but it's been part of our promise. And you asked if we regretted certain decisions in that context. We developed our own platform, our own CMS. It's an open source tool that other people can also use, and we invest a lot of time, energy, resources on that in those 6-7 months that we had to build up our platform. And it was a decision that was tough, but I think we stand completely behind that decision because it allows us to have a product that is more of higher quality than if you take something off the rack. And it's something that has a very high initial investment cost. Maybe we could have done it a bit easier and a bit simpler, yes, but I wouldn't say we regret it at all, because it is also part of kind of the culture that we try to envision also at the company. Technology companies think and act a bit differently, and for us, for example, the reporting about technology is one of our key USPs as well. So we have Adrian Fichter, for example, who is also here running some panels here in Perugia, that is really becoming more and more of a watchdog to digital companies out there that I'm not going to name, that need to be reported on, basically. And this you can only do if you have tech-savvy people on board as well. So, yeah.
Again, there's an obvious difference at our project. We wanted to keep it simple. So there are some products on the market, some open source products that are working, working well. We work with them. We work with that. We had one developer on hand that helped us. He's available to us. We have one designer. We have other people that helped us on the way. But we don't have a department in technology or a developer department in our team. I think that's also one thing we learned quite quickly, that as a small company, especially, you have to keep your expenses low, especially if you have no choice, but because you don't have many revenues like other projects. I think there's also the risk in over-investing in certain departments. Not to say that it's not worth to invest in technology, but I think we took the decision that we kept it simple and invested nearly all of the revenues we had in the journalistic content. So that's the difference, I would say, between us.
There's a question in the back.
Hi. Core to all of you is the promise of including your members in making of the journalism. And my question is, how do you do that? What are the challenges you meet in doing that? And if you were starting up today, would you do something different in like how you facilitate the engagement from your readers or members? Thanks.
I think we need another panel for this. Where to start? Yeah. We work with members in various ways, and members all have different ways of engaging. I talked about it in a panel this morning, but the most obvious example is where we ask readers to share their expertise with us. And that's one. And the second one is to share that beneath an article. So we see the contribution section as an integral part of our journalism, because that's where the conversation continues. And we verify our members, so you know who's talking, and you have to be a member to talk to the other members. And over the years, we've seen our contribution section grow in quality also and quantity as well. And we've seen academics joining, but also politicians and other experts, and really interesting actually. And it's often a starting point for a new article as well, or a new series of articles. So we try to involve members in our journalism actively by asking them to contribute. And the second way, I think, is that our correspondents, they share their learning curve through sharing. Well, they share their progress on the website. So if they do an investigation, they share what they learn along the way. we do this so we can involve members into that thought process, which we think also adds to the integrity of the journalist, because you trust the journalist who is open about their convictions, working methods, etc. So these are just 2 ways. There's multiple ways, but you can tell.
I'll second that and add that one thing we also do, and I think you do the same, is being not only transparent about the journalism, about how a specific story is made, but also transparent about what is, in our case, Zetland. What is our mission? When do we make mistakes? Why do we make mistakes? You know, just the sort of a running conversation with our members about our business. And I think the only thing that I regret, no, that's not true. I regret tons of things. But one thing I regret is that we don't do it even more, because every time we do it, it just really resonates with the members, and it's a way of sort of constantly educating and re-educating the membership or the members about what is the contract between you guys and us, and I think that it's important to just constantly reminding us and them about this is a different kind of relationship we have.
For us at Republik, we really try to bring 3 dimensions to play hand in hand together. It's the editorial side, the social side with the members, and the meta level. So it's also making transparent how the organization works, how the journalism works, and we have to get better at that, I think. But we're investing also a lot of energy into that. Maybe one aspect that I would like to share and highlight here is that I believe we are the only platform that is giving part of its ownership also to its members. Like almost half of our business belongs to the readers. We have a bit of a complex structure because of that. So that maybe is a regret that we have. We kind of over-engineered it a bit, because we wanted to build a company that cannot be sold and purchased by someone, and that has ownership of both the founding team, the employees, as well as the readers. So we have actually 2 companies. One is a cooperative, one is a shareholder structure, and they own each other. It's a bit too complex, but the essence is that our readers own half the company, and that's also a promise that we made, and that is important for us. The road there was maybe a bit too complex and cost us time, but we're still very much standing also behind that decision that we want to involve our readers, not just as readers, but as publishers, as we call them, and as being an integral part of the business also. On the side of that, it's we also focus on having events, not just a digital presence, but also a physical presence or a physical relationship, if you want to call it that way, with people, which is not a growth factor for us. It's not something. Maybe it will be a revenue stream also at some point. Zetland is doing very interesting events, but
it's not a revenue stream.
No, but it's also yeah. It's also something that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Maybe there's one advantage of a small country, actually quite concrete one, that it's very possible in Luxembourg, especially for us as a smaller media, to get to know your subscribers actually. So there's a possibility to meet them in real life, to have events and meet up with them on a regular basis. And that's also one thing we underestimated actually, and at the beginning, the need or the demand of subscribers to exactly do that. And you don't, in our case, we don't have to put up a forum, a web forum, or make it possible in a technological way, but we can meet with them and talk about our topics, and that's something we underestimated, because there's very much an interaction, and also many story leads coming from our audience, from our subscribers that are quite concrete, and we follow them up. And there were many examples where they led to really interesting stories and investigations. So that's more our
Is there a
approach.
place in Luxembourg where you can meet where you can actually?
It's not that small, actually. No. But as I said before, there's actually even if you're very far away, you have maybe 1 hour 30 drive to get to the capital. So that changes something. So that's that's a positive difference for change.
So I'm not sure I understood correctly. So how is the content consumed? Is only paying members who can access your content, or do you have other strategies to make it, make sure that your content reaches more people, broadens the debate? How do you foresee it in the future? Or is this good quality journalism, condemned in a way to be only for a small paying members of a small paying club? Sorry.
I think Maaike should.
We have this very similar model.
I think we have a similar model. We have social sharing is free. So whenever you share an article, whether it got shared by you or by someone else, it's free. So you can read it without a paywall. And we also have a pay what you can model for the Correspondent, the English language expansion, which was actually partly based on Republik's model, because they have a pay what you can model in Switzerland. Maybe you can tell.
Normal price, but we also have, if you can't afford it, instead of having a reduced price subscription, we opted for pay as you wish, pay as much as you can model, which has been working also very well. But also we have a hard paywall. You cannot, the full product that is important, philosophical part for us, the full product with the full experience you can only get if you're a member. And you can become a member if you join and become a publisher. But also there's ways that make it easy to join also if you can't afford the full price.
Yeah, just one last thing about social sharing. Whenever a member shares an article, at the top of the article you see which member shared it with you. And that's pretty important, because then you see that someone paid for this along the way and that journalism is worth something. So it's very important to have that. Even though it's just small at the top, it shows that someone is paying it forward. Yeah.
Also, I think what I like about this model, we just copied it from the Correspondent. Is that when we ask our members why they want to pay for our journalism, they say, of course, that they like the journalism and they like the features and stuff, but also they want it to exist in the world. And they want it they want to be able to actually open it up for the rest of the world. And so I just really like that feature. It's just good thinking, that you actually pay not to crawl behind a paywall, but you pay to open a door, if that makes sense.
But I think there's more to it. There's also a traditional way to get your story or the word out, because especially in Luxembourg, we saw that we had major stories, especially on the financial and banking sector in Luxembourg, which is quite developed in our country. When you have exclusive quality stories, then other media tend to take the story and spread it to a larger audience. So we had this experience several times, and we shouldn't underestimate it. We shouldn't underestimate that as well. That our audience is quite small compared to other media. But if you make a difference by your reporting, you still have possibilities to reach a larger audience. Yeah.
Any more questions in the room? Should we? There was an interesting question that I asked around into for the preparation, which was like what were proud moments in your past year, in your past time. Would you like to share a bit on that to get back into our self-help?
The proudest moment?
Yes, the positive side of that.
No, I'll be more than happy to share. Actually, I think well, just now that when we sold a license to the platform, for me that really made me proud because and we won the prize for best designed digital newspaper in the Nordic countries twice, and for me, just thinking. Our ability to think that design and product is part of the journalistic mission. That makes me proud that we saw that.
I think, like any other journalist, it's really cool when you see that your work has impact. So one recent investigation we did actually forced the Pentagon and other security and intelligence services around the world to change policy regarding mobile phones and sports apps for military personnel and intelligence personnel. So that's really cool when things like these happen. So we're proud of these moments, but we're also particularly proud when people tell us they look differently at the world because of our articles. They feel less cynical about the people around them and the world in general. And we also really like it when people really add their expertise and share their expertise on our platform. So whenever we see people with really interesting comments taking the actual article to a higher level, that makes us proud, because that means that our idea and ideal form of journalism works and people get it. So we're particularly proud when things like these happen.
Yeah, same for me. In journalistic perspective, it's the same. We had few examples of stories that triggered some substantial debate in society in Luxembourg. And for me, maybe something that I'm proud of is for journalists that went entrepreneur, is that our plan is actually working. So we had a plan that was very much tailored to the Luxembourgish demand, and it worked. It still works, and that's definitely something we all can be proud of in our team. Yeah.
Can I ask something? I think. Well, just this morning we got a comment from a reader who said that the reason he really liked Zetland was that now he'd stop fussing about the latest headline, and because he'd found out that it didn't really matter that much. Comments like that, and not least comments like, I stopped reading the news. But now I have found a way back into journalism. That's just that's what we're here for, and it's just fundamentally meaningful to connect people to society through journalism.
Let me also think of a proud moment that I've had, and so when we decided to give part of the company to our members, we also decided to do a members council, a readers council, and we wrote like a concept how that would work, like a parliament for our readers, and then we had to actually implement it when we were successful with the crowdfunding. So we figured out, okay, we'll do a tour through different cities in Switzerland and see if people come and want to volunteer to be part of this unpaid volunteers council. And people showed up everywhere we went, and they came with people we didn't know that just heard of the mission and that wanted to kind of become part of this So that was a very humbling moment, because it really showed us, okay, there's something in this idea that not only mobilizes people to buy a subscription, but also to be willing to put work in and effort. And that brings me also back to this special relationship with the members. It's not just seeing them as masses or recipients of a message, but also as partners in something, where volunteer work or where help in any form can also be part of the deal, of the relationship. It's not just about a transaction of money and content. It is much more than that. You are kind of allies in a rebellion against something, or in an idea that you fight for together. So these moments you see, especially when people come up and show up and actually say, oh, I'm interested in this topic, or I want to discuss about this as well. They manifest specifically in physical spaces, but not only. Also, they manifest in the way we interact when we get mail, when we respond to mail. We share this engagement that gets me. I get sparkles in my eyes from that, basically. Right? I can feel the magic. Yeah. And I think it's also something that we have very much in common, that notion of collaborating with members. Anyway, so should we get some more questions? Yes.
Also, what we have in common is not to consider. There's no. Maybe it's because we don't share the same market. But still, I think there's a sort of a camaraderie. Is that a word? Between medias like us, and I just really like that sense of, hey, let's help each other instead of building walls around good ideas. I really like that. I really appreciated that. So thank you, guys.
One love.
Yes.
These were 4 nice moments to hear from, but now I'm also curious. Did you also have a moment of a fuck up?
We actually did a panel on that last year. 10 ways we fucked up. It was really nice, because we ended. We designed it as a group therapy where everyone in the room would share fuck ups. We should redo it next year. But yeah, there were definitely fuck ups. Yeah.
Fuck up.
Oh God, that's a good question. Top fuck up. One, I was just looking at my editor-in-chief now. I think one fuck up was the story on child soldiers. We had a very nuanced story, also published by Der Spiegel and Information in Denmark, by the way. Long story short, children in the Baltics trained by paramilitary groups to train for an imminent, not a war, fight against Russia. We published that, but last minute the headline was changed to child soldiers preparing for war with Russia. And the defense minister of Estonia didn't like that, and we got a really huge backlash because of that, because of this headline. And we got, the reporter in question also got death threats from nationalist Estonians, just because of the headline. I mean, it would have probably also caused a stir anyway because of the topic, but yeah, you just have to be careful as usual. But there's many fuck-ups. We can talk about it over an Aperol.
Well, I say tons of fuck-ups because I really mean tons of fuck-ups. Like every day you fuck something up because you're entering new space and you're trying to build something new, which is hard because it doesn't exist. So you have to fuck a lot up, I think. So anyway, one of our major fuck-ups happened recently when we we wanted to, or we said that we wanted to cover climate change in another way. We don't only wanted to describe it, we also wanted to be part of the solution. And that was true, and that was a good idea, I think. So that was not the fuck up. The fuck up was that maybe 1 week after that, we launched what's it called? I need an English word. Anyways, I'll go about it. We made an arrangement with a flight company, Norwegian, so that if you were a Norwegian customer, you could get a Zetland membership and then get bonus points, which was a fuck up, and like major. And the one thing we did is the only thing you can do in such a under such circumstances is just lay it all out. So what we did was asked our members, what do you think? And it turned out actually, I think 50% of them said don't, 50% of them said do, and in the end we ended up canceling that arrangement and just did a story on the process, and that was toe cringing, you know. I think so. So it ended the right toe cringing place, but it took a while. Yeah.
We had several ones, but they definitely can't compete with that. So you have to think about it.
Yeah, we should do a fuck up night properly, but with some beers or. But one aspect that maybe I would like to look into a bit is being too much focused on the inside. So underestimating a lot of business team growth issues, and we had phases in which so much work was only facing the inside of our company, because we had to build it, because we had to, like, everything was new, everything was the first time. We tried to do many things at the same time, and many things new all at the same time. So maybe we should have reduced complexity earlier instead of having this constant focus at ourselves, because it kind of makes you a bit, it's like looking in a mirror too much. Do I look like it had a bit that tendency, and we had to wake up and like, oh, finally we can look at the outside world again, and which is our job, and not, it's not our job to build a company so that we have a company, but it's our job to build a company so that we can do journalism and publish and be in touch with the world, not in touch with ourselves only. So that's a bit philosophical, but I think a lot of our fuck-ups were revolving around that. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we're nearing the end of our hour, but maybe we can have one more question from the audience. Yes.
I have two questions. The first one is, in the day of social media and so much activism and social work being done in places like the United States around social media, I know a lot of people that look like me in terms of age that are on social media oftentimes don't actually read the articles, they just read the headlines. My question is for you guys, what is your process for headline writers, and do they actually read the articles first? Because sometimes, like, maybe that's one of the fuck-ups that happen a lot in newsrooms, because I've seen that myself, and like they have to go back and redo things. And I think that's something that definitely needs to be addressed, because there's a lot of people of my generation that don't actually read the articles, they just read the headline first. So like, what's y'all's process for that?
We actually have a headline philosophy. It's 7 pages.
Can you share that?
Well, maybe that's another session as well, but the main message is that the message should be in the headline. So no questions, no cryptic messages, no, I don't know what is strekking in English?
Strekking?
Yeah, like you have a message and it's difficult to explain. But the message should be in the headline, because we know people won't read the article, which is fine because we're not relying on clicks in a way. So, but that's important because it's one of the key points in our headline philosophy is that it's better to give away what is in the article than not to.
Well, for us, one clear aspect is that we don't want to have anything that smells like clickbait. Yeah. Although we do rely on like social sharing of content, but we don't want any false headlines that they are just in for the flash. Maybe one
child soldiers.
Yes. One thing that maybe is also interesting in this context, when we grew fast, we also had a lot of people coming from legacy media that basically it's important for us to look at the whole product, not just the article, the headline, but like also how it's shared, like in the newsletters, in social media, in shareable through WhatsApp, etc. And it's not easy to get like that awareness to everybody in every corner all the time, because there are many, many different journeys that an article, that contents can make, that people can make to get to those contents, and we are probably also doing a lot of things wrong in that still, but we're trying to raise awareness that the package is not just the app, the website, but also it comes in many different shapes.
Yeah, but can I add something? I think you raise an important question, and I think one way to go about it is to consider what metrics for success you have. So is it just clicks you want, or is it people to read to the end? Is that a metric of success for your business? And for us it is. Of course it's important for us that people actually want to click on the article, but it's as important that they read it to the end.
You can optimize for reach, you can optimize for trust.
Yeah.
There are different things that can be important. You can optimize for
love.
For conversions of readers. I mean, there are different goals, and they also need to be in kind of sort of a balance. So when somebody's not logged in Republik and gets an article, we have very carefully texted pop-up messages that ask people to join the cause, etc. So that's also part of the package. The package is quite complex. Right, I think we're nearing the end. Good. Well then, thank you.
Thanks for coming.